morning. It's McCollum on Business, Wednesday edition here this week as well. Thank you for joining me. I'm Stephen McCollum. For the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to get you updated on what's happening around the business world. Obviously, a lot of focus right now in the business world is on the Middle East issues happening out there with the military strikes happening. And some say a war, some say not a war. We don't get into politics here as well, but a lot of our first stories is going to be kind of on what we're seeing in terms of oil, as well as products getting here as well. Even possibly a tariff war starting off because of this as well. And folks, it is amazing how fast the oil markets have gone. 13% up over the last 2 days. I saw this morning driving in, the oil prices near my house are all closer to $4. Got a text this morning that a quick trip out there in the East Valley, $3.89 today, almost $1 up here over the activities that happened over the weekend. So we're getting affected by it, obviously, here in the Valley, and we'll get you updated on all that. And there's some news around oil, at least here this morning. And let's get into all of that here with the Market Watch. All pre-market trading. Market opens at 7:30 this morning. And as you see there on your screen, everything is up today as well. Crude oil does trade lower this morning for the first time since the festivities started happening over there for Iran conflict surge as well. So oil has traded lower here today for the first time. At Dow Jones right now in the futures up 192 points, 48,625. S&P 500 also up here in their futures, 33 points up to 68.38 there for the S&P 500. The NASDAQ is up 152 points for its futures, 24,908. Again, market opens here about 7:30 our time. Don't forget, time change coming up this weekend. So we will get a little bit different of a market time frame, in terms of pre-market trading here starting on Monday. Russell 2K, it's up 25 points right now, 26.29 for the Russell 2K. Then there's Bitcoin. Yeah, look at this, folks. Above 70,000 for the first time in a long time. Later on in the program, we will look at stocks that are tied to cryptocurrencies. That'll be in our second half of the show coming up as well. But look at Bitcoin kind of rallying here above 70,000 here this morning as well. 71,417 for it right now. Stocks we are paying attention to in this portion, as I said, we'll go to cryptocurrency tied stocks here later on in the program. But first, we're going to talk Moderna here. Now, we know Moderna, biotechnology firm. Well, their stock, pre-market stock here is up 11% here today. You see yesterday it closed at 5.71% down. And then big improvement here after market and pre-market trading this morning. It said Moderna did say it agreed to pay up to $2.25 billion. All that to settle a biopharma corporation and Genevant Sciences GmbH. That's a lawsuit over a COVID vaccine patent dispute is what that is. To shorten it up there instead of using the big words, $2.25 billion settlement. That's why they're up 11% here in pre-market trading here on this Wednesday morning. Now let's go some retail here for a couple of stocks. Ross Stores, you know them. They call them the off-price retailer, Ross Stores. And it amazes me how Ross kind of struggles a little bit out there. You see, yesterday it closed down 2.30% at the end of the day. Pre-market trading, though, it's up 7% right now in pre-market trading. They've reported better than expected fourth quarter financial results. I mean, every time I go into a Ross, we frequent them a lot with teenagers and things. I mean, they're always busy out there. And so I'm always shocked when they don't perform. But they did perform here with their fourth quarter financial reports. They did show that sales are rising for Ross as well. Their earnings came in at $2 per share. The analysts were only expecting $1.90 per share at that point. It also brought in $6.64 billion in revenue. The expectation was only $6.42 billion. So big numbers coming in above the expectation levels here for Ross Stores as well. Interesting enough, if you look at their sales rose 12.2%. Yes, $6.64 billion, as I said, year over year. So 12% increase, 12.2% increase in sales for Ross here. And no doubt about it, these these discount or off price retailers, as you want to call them, do better as the markets get worse, as more people will frequent them, of course, looking for those deals out there. And that's true for raw stores here, up 7% here in pre-market trading as well. Then you got Abercrombie and Fitch is the next retailer we're going to look at here. They're down about 2% here in pre-market trading. You see, yesterday they finished up 1.40%, 2% down here this morning in pre-market. Well, they reported mixed fourth quarter results for this apparel retailer. They posted earnings of $3.68 per share. Expectation was $3.57 per share. So they did beat that. The revenue was in line with analyst estimates. It came in at $1.67 billion for Abercrombie and Fitch. Here's the problem, though. They issued lackluster forward guidance for them. This is why they're down 2% here in pre-market trading. They see their first quarter earnings coming in between $1.20 and $1.30 per share. Yeah, big miss here because analysts are expecting $1.45 per share in this first quarter. So big guidance miss. That's why they're down 2% here in pre-market. But also, they projected lower than expected revenue growth moving forward as well. So isn't that interesting? Ross, big numbers, big growth potential here for them. A competitor, well, I guess you could say another clothing apparel. I don't know if they're considered exact competitors. But Abercrombie and Fitch on the other side having negative numbers today, and that's why Abercrombie's down 2% here in pre-market trading. As I said earlier, when we come back and look at the market watch for the final time here today, later on, well, we're going to look at crypto stocks coming our way as well. Things associated with crypto stocks. So that means Coinbase, Strategy, Gemini Space Station. You see what they're doing because Bitcoin, whether you want to say it or not, went from that 66,000 level. You saw there, 71,000 is what it's trading at. Obviously, those stocks that we're going to look at later rise and fall with the level of Bitcoin. So we'll take a look at them as well here with this big run up here in at least Bitcoin. And I did look on Coinbase earlier today. All the cryptocurrencies are a little bit up today as well for them. But first, let's get into the stories that you need to know here on this Wednesday morning as you're getting ready for work. And, look, today you can pay attention to your 401k and your stocks out there. It looks like it's going to be a better day than it was yesterday out there, but there's still some major concerns out there, and it has to do with the Iran war as well. We talked yesterday about the Iran war and how gasoline, just because only 5% of Iran's oil goes into the market. Basically none of it comes to America or any of our allies. Most of it goes to China out there. But 20% of oil goes through that Strait of Hormuz out there. Well, so we know oil is being affected. That's why we're seeing a spike here as well in that oil prices. But now, what else is being affected with that shipping through that area as well? And it's disrupting everything, right? The wider global supply chain is being affected here with this battle. So everything from pharmaceuticals, that come from India, semiconductors coming from that South Asia province there as well. But even then, it wouldn't shock you if I told you oil-derived products, fertilizers, things like that effect coming from the Middle East, obviously having problems getting around, especially that strait there with all of this going on. So cargo ships are stuck in the Gulf, or they're making the much longer detour that they need to do to avoid the conflict there. They're going around the southern tip of Africa, which means more expenses, obviously, in gas to get around, not just time, but gas to get around that southern tip of Africa, which is going to affect pricing coming up as well. Planes carrying air cargo out of the Middle East, well, they're grounded as well. All those countries' airports are shut down. And the longer that this war, this battle does drag on, well, it's more likely that there will be shortages, but more importantly, also price increases on a wide range of goods. So if there aren't going to be shortages, there will definitely be price increases like we see in oil here today as well. There's a company out there called Clarkson's Research. They track shipping data around the world. They estimate that about 3,200 ships, which is only about 4% of global ship tonnage, well, they are idle inside the Persian Gulf. That does include about 1,231 of them that likely only operate within the Gulf as well. That's about 500 ships or 1% of global tonnage. They're currently waiting outside the Gulf in ports off the coast of the UAE and, of course, Oman as well, in that outside of that strait. So we're not talking huge amounts of ships, but we are talking enough that's going to affect pricing and shortages for a bunch of products out there. Air cargo, obviously, as I told you, has been constrained as well. Closed airspace and airports, in all those countries, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Iraq, are all closed airspaces there as well. They've left not just thousands of people stranded, like in Dubai, for instance, but also the cargo in those areas as well. Each of the three major Middle Eastern airlines, so that would be Emirates, Qatar Airways, and one called Etihad Airways, the one I hadn't heard of. Well, they operate fleets of cargo aircraft, but they also transport goods, of course, at the on the in the storage there of their passenger planes as they move around. The amount of goods that travel through the air typically accounts for less than 1% of all freight moving globally. The difference is, though, if you're flying it by air, well, those are generally perishable or high value products and goods. So those would be the pharmaceuticals, electronics, produce, for instance, would be on the aircrafts that's not getting out right now as well. That alone accounts for about 35% of the world trade value in the plane side of things for the pharmaceuticals, et cetera. So we could see pharmaceutical prices rising here as well based off of this coming up here. The longer these airports obviously remain closed, well, the greater the potential disruption to the economy in those specific shipments. If they don't arrive or they have to be rerouted around the conflict, or even if they're perishable, right, and they expire, obviously that's additional cost that has to be made up as well. Even before the war in Iran began over the weekend, air freight and airlines, they were already contending with closed airspace, obviously, for a long time now over Ukraine and Russia, where you do have to fly around those sites as of right now. So it's not just oil that's being affected here with this war. So pay attention here, folks, and buckle in. It looks like we're going to be dealing with this here for a while coming up. And now, President Trump did say that they could use Navy ships to move ships around that area and get them in and out of the strait to kind of avoid any problems with these freight companies. So the president, at least in his administration, are looking at options here to get that free flowing ships out there. So we'll have to just see how this does play out. And look, this war also could be leading to a big showdown in terms of tariffs and trade as well. Yeah, on Tuesday, President Trump threatened to end trade, all trade, with the country of Spain out there. Well, the reason why? Well, a lack of support over the U.S. and Israeli attacks on Iran, and also the European nation's resistance to increasing its NATO spending. Spain, everybody, if you know about the NATO side, President Trump said everybody needs to be 5% of GDP. Everybody's agreed to move their pricing up to that amount. Well, Spain has agreed not to do it moving forward. Now we're not allowed to use their bases, basically, in these wars. So, a day before President Trump made his comment, so this would be Monday, Spanish foreign minister, well, he came out and said his country would not allow the U.S. to use jointly operated bases in southern Spain in any strikes not covered by the United Nations Charter. So he also noted that the military bases in Spain were not used in the weekend attack on Iran. So Trump has now threatened repercussions on Spain as an ally. Basically, hey, you want our security in the UN and everything, but you're not willing to pay for it. You're not willing to allow us to use your bases with you. And the foreign minister there of Spain is a far left person as well, if you didn't know. So kind of gives you an idea of their mindset. Regardless, politics we don't get into, but he is definitely a left side of things from that perspective there. Now, it is unclear how Trump would cut off trade with Spain, because Spain is under that umbrella of the European Union specifically. The EU negotiates trade deals on behalf of all 27 member countries. So you don't know how you could cut off trade with it. But just if anybody could figure out a way to do it, it would obviously be President Trump out there, right? And his administration. So we could be leading into trade differentials here because of this Iran war as well. So little bit of updates I told you earlier. Crude oil is trading lower today as well in terms of the wars. We and to get you updated on the business side of that as well. Not big movement down today. Of course, Monday it was 6% up. Basically, oil was on average. Yesterday, 7% up as well on Tuesday. Well, today, like I said, not a ton, but um, Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, did come out and make some comments today on CNBC. He said the U.S. is going to make a series of announcements to support the flow of oil through the Persian Gulf as well. So he said that this morning. Brent oil crude futures, well, they're down 0.7%. West Texas intermediate crude futures are lower by 1% here today as well. So both little bit of a movement down, not enough obviously to drop oil prices or anything to that effect, but we are seeing movement down here as well from those comments here. We'll have to see what comes out later today. Obviously, it's going to affect the market out there. Let's move on to some other thing. Now, this is about the Iran war, and this is fascinating to me here because over the weekend when it started, I was seeing videos of aircraft carriers on fire, things to that effect. They looked real realistic. One of them was a video game I saw put out. Well, a bunch of it's, of course, artificial intelligence out there, all on the X platform. And now X has come out and said creators who post artificial intelligence generated videos of this any armed conflicts, but they say specifically this Iran one, since that's what we're dealing with. And if you post those without clear disclosure that it's AI, well, you'll be penalized under new X policies aimed at preventing manipulation and misinformation. This stuff looks real, folks, that I was seeing over the weekend. Users who post AI generated videos of an armed conflict, you have to add that disclosure that it was made with AI specifically. If you fail to do that and you add that disclosure, you'll face a 90-day suspension from the platform's creator revenue sharing. And then if you do it again or any future violations, it'll result in a permanent suspension from that X program. And look, if you saw these videos and you didn't catch on to what it was, they looked real out there. So at least one platform, X, is trying to crack down on that misinformation and then those videos out there as well. So uh, if you do that type of stuff, I guess, or if you're watching, just be aware. There's a lot of AI generated stuff that's not true out there. Looking at that, and in other news around the business world and cryptocurrency specifically, Kraken, that's a cryptocurrency exchange. Well, their banking unit has gained access to the Federal Reserve's payment systems. Now, it's a limited purpose account, is what they're getting access to as well. But it's monumental because they're the first U.S. digital asset bank to get this access. And obviously, it's all because that cryptocurrency sector deepens its reach into the mainstream finance. Right, President Trump wants to make the U.S. the cryptocurrency capital of the world. So it has a FedMaster account. Kraken Financial can now link directly to core U.S. payment systems, things like FedWire, which means they can avoid intermediary banks and enabling faster, more efficient flat transfers for their institutional clients. What that's going to do is reduce operational complexity for them, but mainly cost as well coming out. Kraken would not receive the wider range of privileges granted to banking institutions. They will not have that full master account access, but it is a major win for the cryptocurrency industry because they're increasingly incorporated into those traditional markets, but also attracting a lot of interest from institutional investors over time as people are interested in investing in these crypto products as well. The account was approved for initial 1 year term. Services will be introduced in phases, starting with the support of the institutional client activity there at Kraken as well. So saw a lot of people kind of in awe and shocked about this move yesterday as well, but that is coming down the pipeline, and Kraken being the first company to get that things. And make no mistake about it, there will be more coming up as well. And then kind of an update for you here as well. We've talked about this a few times here over the last several months, but specifically around watching stock prices and things. But that huge antitrust trial, about ticketing, right? Live Nation, which is the parent company of Ticketmaster, and possible breakup of these companies as well. Well, that trial is officially underway this week as well. So it started yesterday, Tuesday, and this case is about whether they have a dominance of the concert industry, which they want to know if it amounts to an illegal monopoly. So it's Live Nation owns Ticketmaster, and they own a large majority of ticket pricing and ticket options here with many events out there and venues as well. So the opening statements came out, and a U.S. Justice Department lawyer did point to the company's, problem played effort. Remember back in 2022 when they were selling Taylor Swift tickets? It became a giant mess. Fans couldn't get them. They went to more expensive ticket brokers, etc. Well, he specifically pointed to that in his opening statement, and he implored the federal jury there to end the company's hold on the market. And then also, by breaking up the market, you're not just going to get better pricing for us consumers, but it's going to reward artists as well with a competitive marketplace. And it means everybody's going to have more money. Artists will get more money as they have to compete for the ticket rights. And then us as consumers won't spend as much in theory, right, as well. Of course, the lawyers arguing for the companies there, well, they disputed the government's claims and said, we're not an illegal monopoly, not at all. But we can still raise prices whenever we want. The judge has told jurors that evidence will be presented over the next 6 weeks before it'll be put into their hands. And like I said, the whole point on this is they need to decide whether Live Nation and Ticketmaster broke antitrust laws. If the answer is yes to that, they're going to have to be broken up here as an illegal monopoly. And I for one, am rooting for it. When you buy tickets, which I've done recently, WWE's coming to town next week, and I got tickets for that. When you buy 4 tickets, and let's say it's $800, and your bill's $1,100 because of the fees on the backside, absolutely atrocious. Just an absolute ripoff on fees. When fees are more expensive than one ticket, it's a joke of a system. And I'm kind of rooting for the government on this one, to be honest with you. But hey, also, we talk a lot about hims and hers, right? They're going to be sued there and everything, and for using other companies' drugs like Wegovy drugs, right? Well, the FDA is kind of pushing this a little bit more right now, not specifically at Hims and Hers Health, but they sent 30 telehealth companies warning letters about their illegal sales of compounded GLP-1s. So 30 companies now are kind of getting in letters involving this ripping off of these FDA-approved drugs. So obviously, these letters are building off increasing pressure to tamp down on the sales of these unapproved medications. So according to the FDA in these letters, the companies that they did send the letters to made false or misleading claims about the GLP-1 products that they sold on their websites. So they made claims like implying the sameness with those FDA-approved products and obscuring product sourcing. They're claiming that they're the same as those FDA-approved products, even though they haven't been through the compounds, have not been through the FDA process. So now this gets kind of convoluted because of the history of that GLP-1 availability. Because when the GLP-1 availability is low, compounded versions of the drugs, tirzepatide, semaglutide, which are main ingredients in these drugs, well, they were allowed to be and meant to be a personalized for patient-specific prescriptions. But when the branded drugs are not in shortage, compounding pharmacies are not permitted to mass market compounded versions of the medication. And they are not in shortage as of now. So they're not allowed to do it, but a lot of them are still doing it out there as well. So this is a hyper-specific nature of compounded drugs is what we're looking at here. So they're not FDA-approved drugs because every person has a different version or different percentage of whatever's in it as well. But compounding pharmacies are regulated by both state and federal agencies to some degree, but they're claiming they're FDA approved and things to that effect. So Hims and Hers was just the first. Now 30 other uh, compounding pharmacies are getting letters from the FDA basically saying, knock it off, would you? Hey, when we come back here at McCollum on Business, we'll keep it rolling as well Well, if you're flying on United Airlines, maybe you'll get some break here from some air noise on the plane. I'll tell you about that. Plus, a couple local stories coming your way. Of course, we'll look at the market again, those crypto adjacent stocks out there as well. We'll take a look at those. So, coming back, it's McCollum on Business. And we're back here, McCollum on Business Wednesday edition. Appreciate you joining me here. As you just saw, The Real Matrix is coming out. New episode this Friday, 10 a.m. here at Robat TV. Then, of course, at noon, it comes out on all your favorite podcast systems out there. You search The Real Matrix at The Real Matrix Show. It comes right up for you there if you want to listen to it. And, of course, if you don't have a subscription here to Robat TV, you can catch it on Rumble for The Real Matrix. Just search The Real Matrix, or the TME Media is where you can find it as well. That's our parent company of what we produce here and around all the shows we produce, not just the ones that you see that we do. We produce some that go out to other entities out there as well. But YouTube channel as well there for The Real Matrix. Of course, as soon as we get done here, this gets put up on demand at Robat TV, the YouTube page as well. We go right into the main event. Me and 17-year NFL veteran Del Hellestrae. We get you updated on the sports world and lots of news out there with ASU's big upset over Kansas last night, U of A, and going into the Big 12 tournament. Cardinals, big quarterback decision there, and so much more. Live 8 to 10 a.m. here at Robat TV. As soon as that's done, we get it posted on YouTube. Of course, the YouTube page as well for our production company, TME Media AZ, is where you can find it there as well. Or just search the main event with Steven or with Dale, and it pops right up for you as well on YouTube. Free podcast system as well for you out there. And with the move of the studio and everything, well, the pit stop, we're not able to do 2 shows this week as we missed Monday. We're going to do one big show again as well this week. That's going to come out tomorrow, Thursday, for you. We're going to do a whole show looking back, of course, at COTA last weekend. Look ahead to Phoenix this weekend, where IndyCar comes into town as well on Saturday. I'll be out there. Me and the crew will be out there getting our videos and enjoying the weekend covering racing here in Phoenix as well. So look for the pit stop Thursday. It'll be up about 2 o'clock tomorrow as well for you. And of course, on demand at the Pit Stop Talk is where you can find it on X. Search just the Pit Stop with Steven there on your favorite podcast system, or catch it on YouTube as well. Old episodes or episodes this year are up right now. With all that being said, the market is opening here in just about a minute. Let's get into that Market Watch. As I said, markets are opening here as well. So these are still the futures is what we're looking at. Right now, 265 points up for the Dow, 34 points up for the S&P 500. As we're getting ready for the market to open, the NASDAQ futures are up 149 points right now for it. The Russell 2K is up 33 points for its futures look. And then Bitcoin Look at that. About to hit 72,000 or right at that 72,000 level, I should say, for a Bitcoin as well. And the market is getting ready to gavel open. And with that, let's look at those crypto stocks out there. First one will be Coinbase that we're going to look at here. Pre-market trading, it's up about 5% here today. You see yesterday it closed at 1.55%, up in pre-market 5%. A lot of these stocks are just up because Bitcoin, as you saw there, has risen about 4% here, and it's above the 70,000 level for the first time in more than 2 weeks for for Bitcoin and specifically cryptocurrencies up here. So Coinbase pre-market 5% up. Strategy as well as our next stock. It's 6% up here in pre-market trading right now for it. And then there's Gemini Space Station as well. Of course, all tied to the cryptocurrencies. It's up also about 3% here in pre-market trading as well. So Bitcoin goes up 4%. These stocks go up as well. Generally, Bitcoin drops. These stocks generally drop as well. No difference here today as we're getting ready as the market is officially open there in New York City right now. And everything is, I'll just tell you here, our graph takes a few seconds longer to update. Dow has opened 128 points up. S&P 500's up 21 points. Nasdaq's up 131 points. The Russell 2K though has flipped. It is actually down a big today right now. It is open 47 points down there for the Russell 2K here as everything is open. Oil has eased, fallen a little bit. Now 0.7, 1% type of a deal with the comments this morning by the Secretary of Treasury. Doesn't mean you're going to see a lot of price drops there as we're seeing prices of 389 around town and things to that effect. But we'll see what other things come out later. We talked about that at the top of the show. And now let's get into some other stories that you need to know about, a couple local. But first, right, if you're going to travel soon out there, this thing drives me nuts. Every once in a while, I get caught without headphones and I have to listen to something with the volume up. But I'm very courteous of who's around me, how loud it is. I put it up to my ear, type of stuff. But we all know there's a decent amount of people that don't do that. They just crank their volume up loud, and we're forced to listen to whatever they're listening to. Well, United Airlines, they're putting an end to that on their airlines as well because they want to limit noise in its planes' cabins out there. But they want you to still use your personal electronic devices, your phones, your iPads, etc. So they're not taking everything away, but that'll probably be the next step because they're getting kind of heavy-handed here. United amended its contract of carriage specifically. It outlines, if you don't know what that is, that outlines the carrier's rules and policies that you need to follow and what you do, what happens if you don't follow them. And they now say on this contract of carriage that they require all passengers wear headphones when listening to a device. They also said that they reserve the right to remove anyone who doesn't comply with these new rules. And then you can also potentially get banned from flying completely on United in the future. Yes, folks, get yourself a pair of headphones out there. Any passenger listening to music, watching a video, scrolling a social media feed, but if any of that emits sound, you must wear headphones, according to the revised contract of carriage as well. By the way, they didn't announce this, they just kind of snuck it in the contract of carriage. Somebody found it just by seeing an update on it. The carrier may also refuse transport on a permanent basis, is how they phrased it, to any passengers who, quote, fail to use headphones while listening to audio and video content, unquote. That's the exact wording in there. So, if you're traveling this summer, United's not messing around. By the way, from what I've read as well, they're the only airline so far to have done this move as well. Now, they say less than 1% of people on flights are disruptive to this effect and amount out there, but there you go. And airplanes are loud. You have to turn that volume way up in order to hear it out there as well. So that United making those changes secretly on Friday, kind of out there now. So if you're traveling anytime soon, just be courteous as you get onto any airplane, let alone United, because you may get banned permanently if you're egregious about it out there. Hey, here's an update for you on those extreme heat rules that we're kind of going through the process of getting voted in and amended here as well. Well, we're not going to get any formal regulations to protect the workers on that extreme heat. anytime soon after yesterday's vote as well. Because yesterday on Tuesday, it's the second step in a three-part process for establishing that new heat safety standard. Well, it fell short in the voting, and now many labor rights groups were hoping for it to pass. And now, of course, they're very upset that it fell short as well. The advisory committee to the Arizona Division of OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health, came out on Tuesday, and they voted to recommend the Industrial Commission of Arizona that they should consider new workplace heat safety guidelines. The committee did not specify how Arizona employers should be held accountable for following those guidelines or not following those guidelines. Several labor rights groups decried the vote, saying if Arizona does not establish a formal standard that would allow the state to enforce its heat rules, many workers will continue to face unsafe conditions, they claim. Of course, obviously, with our extreme temperatures. And if we're hitting 90 degrees at end of February, beginning of March, it's going to be a hot summer coming our way as well. Obviously, Arizona's known for its hot weather, specifically in the summertime. But Arizona is one of the is a state that has never had safety regulations to protect workers from heat. But seven other states, California, Nevada, obviously Nevada gets as hot as we do, a little bit hotter. California, certain aspects do as well. But those two states and five other ones, I should say, they've now adopted state level standards for workplace heat safety. If you remember last year, Governor Hobbs convened a task force to recommend heat guidelines for Arizona workplaces as well. And, some of it rolled through, like Phoenix has a little bit of one as well. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes forward as we're getting ready to get into that heat. These are things like you have to provide water, you have to have an air conditioned area, even if it's just them sitting in their car for a little bit to cool down during the workday, things to that effect. These types of proposed guidelines, heat illness prevention plans that employers would have to do. As I said, water provided on the job site, shade, rest breaks, during the middle of the day, a few more of those. Because these are the guidelines we're talking about as well going forward. So we'll have to see where it goes from here at this point. But if you work out in the heat, look, this should be basic stuff, in my opinion. If you're a roofer or working outside, you should get just breaks, a lot of breaks and things like that stuff to help you out. I don't know why we need government involved, but hey, companies, right? And bosses, hey, you got to work instead. Here's an update for you as well here on Honeywell Aerospace. Honeywell as a company is being split up. Honeywell Aerospace, well, it took a step yesterday. It took a step towards becoming a publicly traded company as a split off here of Honeywell. It's going to be based here in Phoenix as well. There. So Honeywell, the parent company, filed a financial statement with the SEC for its Phoenix spinoff, that Honeywell Aerospace. So if you don't know the process, companies are required to file that Form 10 with the SEC. They have to do that after accruing $10 million in total assets or 500 or more shareholders is where you have to file this form. This is all the process, and it's a step towards selling securities on U.S. exchanges coming up. According to the press release by Honeywell, they expect to operate under the stock ticker HONA. HONA is what it's going to be under here when that does officially get underway. Honeywell Aerospace will be required to send financial reports and information to the SEC for their investor uses. This will allow Honeywell Aerospace to operate independently of its parent company, of course, being split off there of Honeywell. The company will hold its investor day in Phoenix on June 3rd. That's where its business strategy will be revealed by the company leadership that we found out about a month or so ago as well. If you don't know, this company will employ more than 7,000 workers here in Arizona. They maintain a variety of contracts with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, among other big companies out there. But that split is getting closer and closer to happening. We get another based company here in the Valley with Honeywell Aerospace coming the way. And folks, it's 7:40. We appreciate you joining us here for McCollum on Business. Of course, we got great feedback here on these morning shows. We're going to keep them rolling here in the morning now that we've moved studios officially now, and we're working through that stuff. We are looking for somebody that could possibly do an afternoon or an evening business show out there. If you know anybody, into this business, wants to get into this business, send them my way. Love to talk to them and see if something is positive to work out on that. But appreciate you joining us here, whether it's live at Robat TV or on demand here on the YouTube or Robat TV. Thanks for joining us here for the McCollum Business Morning Show. As well, just so you know, Dow Jones has flipped to the negative category here this morning. 63 points down right now for the Dow Jones. S&P's only up 3, so that everything is trending negative. Even the NASDAQ has gone backwards a little bit to only 81 points up right now as well. Russell 2K still down as well. So the market is trending toward a negative side here after it opened this morning, mostly in the positive. As well, let's keep our eyes on that. We'll be back tomorrow, of course, Thursday here, 7 a.m. Come and join us, McCollum on Business. Have a great day. Main event coming up next.